Massive Chinese live-fire drills around Taiwan. "120 Chinese fighter jets and helicopters carry out extensive war drills. China warns Taiwan and the US. World alarmed by the aggressive Chinese drills. Union Home Minister Amit Shah warns China from Arunachal Pradesh.
हमारे देश की एक इंच भूमि पर भी कोई अतिक्रमण नहीं कर सकेगा। हमारी सेना और हमारी सीमा इसके सम्मान के साथ कोई समझौता नहीं कर सकेगा।
India puts China on notice. Won't cede an inch of ground. That's our top focus on India First. From aggressive Chinese maneuvers on the Taiwan Strait to China changing names of 11 places in Arunachal Pradesh to 50,000 Chinese troops deployed along the LAC in eastern Ladakh since 2020, is the Chinese President Xi Jinping moving forward on his strategy, as China puts it, to reclaim Taiwan and then move forward along the five fingers after occupying the Tibetan palm. So Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Bhutan, Nepal and Ladakh, China eyeing these five places. I'm Gaurav Sawant. What does the dragon dare mean, and what are the implications of Union Home Minister Amit Shah's statement in Kibithoo, very close to the line of actual control? I'm Gaurav Sawant. We get you details, but first, as always, the headlines. After Adani and Savarkar, now Prime Minister Narendra Modi's degree issue divides the opposition as Aam Aadmi Party raises the pitch on the PM's degree. NCP Chief Sharad Pawar says this is not the right issue to take up. Big boost to the Aam Aadmi Party. Election Commission grants it a national party status. National status of the Trinamool Congress, NCP and the CPI revoked. Khalistan terror supporter and fugitive Amritpal's closest aide arrested. Pappal Preet nabbed by Punjab police in the rural Amritsar area. Amul versus Nandini storm in Karnataka. State Congress chief visits a Nandini milk parlour, says, "We want to protect our farmers and don't need Gujarat-based dairy cooperative in the state." Controversy over His Holiness the Dalai Lama asking a child to suck his tongue in a viral video. The Buddhist spiritual leader apologizes to the boy and his family, calls it innocent teasing. Chinese fighter jets, helicopters and warships are carrying out aggressive real-time war simulation in the Taiwan Strait. China's wargaming a multi-pronged offensive to simultaneously attack strategic points in Taiwan, from ship-based aircraft to insertion of troops. But Taiwan's strategy has been like that of a porcupine, making it extremely difficult for any attacker to destroy the target. But is China planning to forcibly take over Taiwan and not wait till 2049 but bring that date forward? Do remember, the world is distracted with Ukraine, and is that China's game plan to attack and take over Taiwan? Chinese warplanes and ships carrying out a simulation of multi-pronged military offensive against Taiwan. The People's Liberation Army, Navy and Air Force carried out a massive exercise to test what Beijing describes as comprehensive joint combat capabilities in actual war conditions. The Chinese carried out multiple waves of simulated strikes on strategic targets in Taiwan in an exercise called Joint Sword. The aim, China said, is encirclement and blockade of Taiwan.
In the military deterrence operation, the theater forces acted on orders to strike and surrounded the island in multiple directions around the clock, which comprehensively tested the ability to seize power, precision strike, and three-dimensional seal control under the auspices of joint warfare system. The troops in the theater are ready to fight at all times and can fight at any time.
The Chinese fighter jets carried out simulated strike exercises carrying live ammunition. The aim of the exercise Joint Sword was to express Chinese displeasure at Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the United States and Central America. China made it clear Taiwan's independence and peace in Taiwan Strait are not possible together.
外交部发言人此前已就蔡英文过境窜美发表谈话。
The command would launch combat readiness patrol and military exercises around the Taiwan island. These operations serve as a stern warning against the collusion between separatist forces seeking Taiwan independence and external forces and against their proactive activities. These drills are necessary for safeguarding China's national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
严重警告，是捍卫国家主权和领土完整的必要行动。
Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said it detected 17 Chinese military aircraft, with more than half coming either close or violating Taiwan's air defense identification zone, and 11 Chinese Navy warships around Taiwan. Taipei insists it is monitoring the Chinese exercises, and Taiwan's Air Force, Navy, and land-based missile systems were tasked with responding to Chinese actions.
With no intention to escalate the situation, the ROC Armed Forces will uphold our sovereignty and maintain our national security in a composed, rational, and thoughtful manner. Meanwhile, our air defense units have remained on high alert. They closely monitor every possible target and react to contingencies accordingly.
Japan too is closely monitoring the exercise and reported more than 120 aircraft and helicopters taking off and landing on board Shandong, the Kuznetsov-class Chinese aircraft carrier. According to Japanese officials, 80 fighter jets and 40 helicopters took off and landed on board the Shandong, apparently wargaming an assault on strategic assets in Taiwan. Japan too launched its fighter jets as a defensive measure. China and Taiwan tensions remain at a historic high, and Chinese aggression is reported to be more than what it was then US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Taipei, of course, says it is prepared to defend its sovereignty. Bureau Report, India Today. And in a major response to China and its territorial adventurism, Union Home Minister Amit Shah rode at the India-China or India-Tibet line of actual control. Amit Shah is on a two-day visit to Arunachal Pradesh. He warned China against its nefarious expansionist agenda. He called Arunachal Pradesh's Kibithoo India's first village. Amit Shah launched a 4,800 crore central project to boost infrastructure in villages across the India-Tibet line of actual control. China had objected to the Union Home Minister's visit, calling it a violation of China's territorial sovereignty. India's long-planned response to boost its border village infrastructure comes close on the heels of Chinese spring tricks, which actually also includes unilaterally naming 11 locations in Arunachal Pradesh in Mandarin. India had forcefully rebutted the Chinese move.
कर मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में भारत के विकास के काम में लग गए हैं। ये हमारी नीति है। सीमा के लिए भी लगभग 15,000 किलोमीटर से लंबी भूमि सीमा को हमने सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से कोई इसके अंदर कोई लोग कोताही नहीं बरतते। हमारी नीति स्पष्ट है, हम सबसे शांति चाहते हैं, मगर हमारे देश की एक इंच भूमि पर भी कोई अतिक्रमण नहीं कर सकेगा। हमारी सेना और हमारी सीमा इसके सम्मान के साथ कोई समझौता नहीं कर सकेगा। ये हमारी सरकार की नीति है, नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार की नीति। मित्रों, किबीथू की ये धरती जहां से भारत की शुरुआत होती है और एक गांव भारत की शुरुआत का गांव, प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पूरी बात को अलग तरीके से सम्मान के साथ रखा है। पहले जब मध्य भारत से कोई आता था तो कहता था कि मैं भारत के अंतिम गांव में जाकर आया, और अब जब यहां जैसे मैं वापिस जाऊंगा, मेरी पोती को बताऊंगा कि मैं भारत के पहले गांव में जाकर आया हूं।
Let's try and make sense of these developments. Joining you on the broadcast is Ambassador Vivek Kaju, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs. Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon is former Director General of Defense Intelligence Agency. Also with me, Sana Hashmi, a visiting fellow of Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation. I first want to cut across to India today is Shiv Arur for more on this. Shiv, how do we see Union Home Minister Amit Shah's statement at Kibithoo?
Gaurav, the reason why Amit Shah's words carry a lot of weight as opposed to, the annual mind games that China plays vis-a-vis Arunachal Pradesh is because India very rarely feels the need to, say something of this kind. That is the reason why it is so powerful. You never see India making aggressive comments as far as Arunachal Pradesh is concerned, about Tibet is concerned. Most of the comments that come out from the Indian system are, usually in reaction to something that China has said. And usually they are very tempered comments, which follow a certain standard protocol of, China cannot, make these kinds of comments.
Okay.
The fact is what Amit Shah has said, that this is not the last village, but the first village, is kind of, exploding with significance. What does he actually mean? Does he mean that this is a new frontier? Does it mean that, China has been put on notice as far as its territorial aggression is concerned? Does it mean that India knows something that China does not know? Because the baseline is, of course, true. That India is sending out a signal to China that, you can play as many mind games as you want, but you've become tired and predictable as far as Arunachal Pradesh is concerned. Here you've got the Home Minister spending a night 1 kilometer away from the line of actual control, the frontier between India and Tibet. And I will say Tibet, especially at this point of time, because that is that is the kind of mind game and language and currency that China actually understands. You've got a situation where once again the messaging is very clearly that India is not a pushover, not only militarily, not only strategically at the frontier, but also in terms of mind games. And this is something that you've seen, you and I have both seen, change quite dramatically since 2020. After Galwan, there has been a line in the sand that India has drawn in terms of mind games, in terms of messaging, and in terms of the show of force on the ground.
Okay.
It's happened in the central sector. It's most certainly happened in Ladakh, and we do know it has happened in Tawang as well very, very recently. So the words used by Amit Shah, in Kibithoo, in Arunachal Pradesh, hold a great deal of significance. How they will actually manifest there remains to be seen.
It is the India-Tibet border. China is illegally occupying Tibet. We all know that. But Sana, what's the view in Taiwan? Is China actually wargaming a forcible occupation of Taiwan and now not waiting for the 2049 deadline?
No, I don't think anyone is really worried in Taiwan because even though I feel that it's not as intense as the live fire drills in August, but now what they have done is, of course, with the aircraft AC Shandong, now what they're trying to do is they're trying to show that they could launch an attack on Taiwan from the east side. So now they are trying to show that China could really carry out attack from multiple fronts. So I think it's directly threatening that, China really wants to invade Taiwan, and it could happen if US and Taiwan continue exchanges.
Okay. General Dhillon, your assessment of the Chinese exercise Joint Sword, pressure tactics, or a real war game to see whether they can actually attack Taiwan from multiple sides and forcibly occupy it, defying what Taiwan calls is its porcupine-like defense system?
Good evening, Gaurav, and good evening to all your viewers. This is the intimidation which Chinese are always, as Shivarur just said, the mind games. They always play mind games, and with India, they have been doing it in the past, but now when we retaliate, actually on the ground, the game has changed. Now, this is not a sheer exercise. You don't come for exercise with an aircraft carrier Shandong, the H-6 bombers, which are nuclear capable, the Eastern Theater Command displaying the mobile launchers. All these are intimidating weapon systems. And they're trying to convey a message to Taiwan because your leader is visiting USA, and this is what we will do in retaliation.
Okay.
Another very important aspect which is being missed out so far is the Russians. The Russia very candidly saying China's right to exercise in these areas. Now, this has happened for the first time openly. Now, this needs to be taken cognizance of. And then US air-based presence at Okinawa Island of Japan.
Yeah.
And US merely saying we are watching the situation.
That's very
Japan
interesting.
Is concerned, as you brought out in your preamble, Japan is monitoring the situation.
Yes.
So it's a very, very hot situation out there. And I think the world needs to take a notice of it. And China
stronger notice of what the world. Okay, Ambassador Kajju, is China sending out a message to its domestic audience, given Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the US, or is this your assessment that China's actually wargaming a real takeover of Taiwan by force, given perhaps the fact that US is distracted in Ukraine?
No, I think it is largely to the domestic audience, because China would know well that if it seeks to change the status quo within Taiwan through military force, then the US, if it wishes to retain its position as the world's preeminent power, will have simply no option but to exercise military means to get into the game. This is not Ukraine. This is a different set. This is a different situation altogether. Even if China wishes to create facts on the ground in Taiwan, it is clear to me that if the US allows that to happen, then its preeminence is over.
Okay.
So I would think that President Xi Jinping knows that despite the ideological divisions in the United States, and they are immense at the moment.
Yes.
They are in a state of chaos politically.
Absolutely.
What's happened to the former president recently, all that shows a political class which is deeply divided. Despite all that, I think the US establishment knows that Taiwan is a litmus case.
Okay. Sana, what are real takeaways from President Tsai's US visit beyond the optics, the real nuts and bolts on Taiwan's security? What has she been able to bring back?
I think it's already been established that Taiwan has got the bipartisan support from the US, and I think the meeting between President Tsai and McCarthy has established it again. But also, if you look at the exercises, now we have also seen how the US has conducted one in the South China Sea, and how Japan has scrambled jets to monitor the activities of Shandong. So Taiwan has definitely got support. There's more determination in Taiwan, and I feel US has played an important role in that context.
Oh, US has played an important role. General, is it your appreciation that the US may be distracted by what's happening in Ukraine? Kiev, reports, you saw that leaked Pentagon report that said that Ukraine is running short of weapons, Ukraine is running short of systems. If the US is unable to provide weapons and systems to Ukraine, will the US have enough stocks to be able to help Taiwan should the balloon go up?
I think US has the wherewithal, and there are different US commands which are responsible for the different areas. So the Indo-PACOM has not been touched as far as Ukraine is concerned. So Indo-PACOM's resources, the assets, and the capabilities are intact, and they are well within their means to deal with the situation which is emerging around Taiwan. So Ukraine and Taiwan, as the co-panelist just said, they are two different war zones.
Okay.
And US is capable of handling them simultaneously on two different fronts.
You don't think the US is distracted, as Ambassador Kaju was pointing out, but Ambassador Kaju, China seems to be working to a plan. China cozying up to Russia, working on reducing dependence on the US dollar. Has the US actually invested too much in Ukraine and giving China perhaps a get out of jail free pass?
No, Gaurav, I don't think so. Ukraine is important for the US in terms of NATO, in terms of European security, in terms of sending a signal to the Russians, to the Europeans and the world that it will not allow Russian aggression to go unpunished. But Taiwan, to my mind, is a different situation altogether. It would be a litmus test for the United States' will, its will to power, its will to retain its preeminent position, as I say.
Okay.
So I, for one, do not think that the Chinese are under any illusions on that score. Yes, the signals that the Chinese are sending to the US is that please don't provoke us beyond a point, because we too have concerns, we too have a domestic situation to answer. This is especially because President Xi Jinping has, come out in this huge macho way that he is the man of destiny.
Okay. General Dhillon,
he is the person who will take China forward. So he can't afford to show any weakness.
So this is more
That,
posturing and not real operations on ground. So let me now quickly shift focus to the other aspect of China, and that is what's happening along the line of actual control. And General Dhillon, what do you make of Union Home Minister Amit Shah's message from Kibithoo, given the sensitivity of the location, given the history of the location from the 1962 India-China war and Wolong?
I think Honorable Home Minister's statement in Kibithoo today is a very clear message of strong will of the government and strong will of the nation. I always say China understands only strength, and this is exactly what the Honorable Home Minister's statement has conveyed, that we will not accept any falsehood or any sort of a unprovoked operation by your side on our territory, especially after Galwan. And what we did on the Zangla Ridge, what Honorable Home Minister's statement today, and our Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar's statements in the recent past, all are indication that we are going to stand strong against bully attitude of China in case it comes on our borders.
Okay. Ambassador Kaju, the tension with China that started from Doklam in 2017, escalated through Galwan 2020, and this is now the third summer of deployment since Galwan. China too has committed over 50,000 troops along the other side of the line of actual control. Is this then the new India-China border in Ladakh, and do you see more tensions in coming months and years then?
Yes, I do see more tensions from time to time, because the understandings of the 1990s are no longer applicable, and correctly, Minister Jaishankar has said repeatedly that normalcy with China, Indo-Chinese relations, cannot be restored as long as the LAC remains under great pressure from the Chinese. Now, 2 points I'll make. I think what the Home Minister said today was absolutely appropriate. And the message that he was conveying to China is that please don't think that India today in 2023 is the India of 1962. Don't think of that. That is something that China would take away. But, and this is the important point, rhetoric and statements have to be matched by activities on the ground. Ultimately, and I'm sure my colleague, the General on the panel, would agree with me, that when assessments are made by armies and by generals, they see the actual situation on the ground
Absolutely.
and the potential for activity on the other side.
And
Now,
perhaps
it is-
China, if it wargamed it
One
incorrectly,
sentence.
has it got a reality check?
One sentence, if you
Okay.
allow me to add.
Go on, sir.
Over the years since Galwan, we have shown at great expenditure. And that is the important point. And I think that is what the Chinese have always wanted. Because their economy is much larger than ours, and they
Yes.
say that, yes, we are doing all this, you'll have to spend more money. We are doing that. We have no option.
We have no option. Last 30 seconds, Sana, before I close show. Sana, of course, given Taiwan's historical position, leave that aside. Does Taiwan have a view on what's happening in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh? Defense of Taiwan lies in this place and vice versa?
So ROC also has claims on the Indian territory, but of course it's highly unlikely that Taiwan is going to claim India's territory. But I believe that we also have to see there is a pattern from the Chinese side. We are seeing that on one hand, China is aggressive with Taiwan, and also China is being aggressive with India at the same time. So I think there is what I'm seeing from being in Taiwan, that there is more solidarity from Taiwan side, and they're definitely standing with India.
Interesting. We'll track these stories very closely. But General Tiny, Dillon, Ambassador Kaju and Sana Hashmi for joining me here on India First. Many thanks. That's all I have time for on the show this evening. Many thanks for watching. Sakshi Batra up next with Business Today. Stay with us.
What a fantastic session we had over there. We spoke a lot about aging. Many scientists and academicians today are making a case for classifying aging as a disease. What is your stance on that?
Well, I fully believe aging is a treatable medical condition, if not a disease. And so what we should do is treat aging like something that is a medical condition that we need medicines that would slow it down or prevent it. And really, the problem is we've been looking at diseases as separate from aging, so slapping bandages on the end product of aging. If we address aging, most of those diseases that kill us will actually go away.
That's very interesting. You spoke about treating aging with medication and supplements as well. You spoke about taking 3 supplements without fail. Metformin, resveratrol, how do you pronounce it?
Resveratrol.
Resveratrol, and there was one more, NED?
Yeah, I take a precursor of NAD, which is called NMN, and this we're testing to turn it into a drug that would treat diseases of aging, kidney failure, even dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And so I'm taking that as a supplement. We want to turn a similar molecule into a medicine one day so we can treat aging and the diseases that it causes.
So what's your take on Ozempic? Is it a good weight loss drug, or should we be cautious about the side effects we see with Ozempic?
Well, I think the best way to lose weight is to not eat 3 meals a day. I advise skipping a meal or 2 every day and you will lose weight the natural way. And exercise is good for you as well. It's much better than taking a drug. This drug, Ozempic, is being overused, in my opinion, and a lot of people are getting too thin, and you can actually see it in their face, and you don't look younger, you look older. Yeah. But as a drug to treat type 2 diabetes, high blood sugar, it's excellent. It's curing that disease in many people, but it's being used off-label, I think, frivolously, and so most people should try to do it naturally first.
One last message to our viewers before we let you go, David. Of course, I'm going to read this book. The review is coming very soon. I'm going to write to you about this as well. But one last message which can sum up what you are here today for.
Well, I would say don't put your body always in a state of abundance. Step out of your comfort zone, give your body a bit of a challenge, and it will repay many times over by defending you against diseases and aging, and you'll live longer too.
welcome you watching the Business Today show. I'm Sakshi Batra. First up, the top news that we are tracking tonight. It's bad news for the Indian economy. Skymet predicts below normal rainfall this monsoon with a chance of 20% drought. Market indices edge up higher to close in the green for a sixth consecutive day. Sensex up 14 points, Nifty up 25 points, led by gains in auto, tech and also metal shares. An exclusive conversation with Arvind Sanger of Geosphere Capital says he is becoming a fan of gold investments for the first time in 15 years. Cautious on equities.